it seems like it's just about that time. It is time to kind of go over what many expect in the first part of the year when it comes to Nintendo, and that is the upcoming Nintendo Direct that we usually get in February or March, but now we have the first super credible leak or information about an upcoming Nintendo Direct coming from the one and only 2025 leaker of the year, at least according to Reddit. But obviously Nate the Hate gets a lot of information correct, and that's why so many people ask him so many things all the time, because he has been proven to be accurate, including the reveal date timing for the Nintendo Switch 2, down to the actual day that it was going to happen. And man, he got a lot of people coming after him when Nintendo hadn't revealed it right up until the last point. And then there you go, last year they showed off the Nintendo Switch 2. So Nate the Hate is back at it again with his podcast, the Nate the Hate podcast with MVG, where he talked about how he's heard about a Nintendo Direct coming through for next week, first week of February, although he is not clear on the exact type of Nintendo Direct it is. Could be a partner Direct, could be a regular Direct. It did seem like he was leaning towards a regular Direct based off of the predictions and the things that he said in his podcast. So I will have that link for you guys in the description below. If you haven't seen it, make sure you check it out. But in this video, we're going to talk about the possibilities for that Nintendo Direct, what we could see, my own personal thoughts on what's happening here, and why it's time for Nintendo to do a number of different things for 2026. But before we get into that, please make sure you hit that subscribe button, because we are giving away a Nintendo Switch 2 when we hit 150,000 subscribers, and we're getting a lot of new people each day. So hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that notification bell, and drop a comment below on what game you would like to see at this potential upcoming Nintendo Direct. We're also giving away a $50 eShop card at the end of this month, and new giveaways pretty much every single month on the channel. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into this here. So on the episode of the Nate the Hate podcast, he does discuss this, and we could see this Nintendo Direct maybe on February 3rd, or maybe on February 4th, or maybe on February 5th. We just don't really know exactly when, but this is typical when it comes to Nintendo, and I think that there's always new people that kind of come into the fold with Nintendo every single year that kind of forget what they do beforehand or what's happened before, and Nintendo's pretty much followed the same pattern for Nintendo Directs for like a decade now at this point. If you go back and look, they usually have an early year major Direct, because some people are saying, oh, it could be a partner Direct. Sure, could be a partner Direct, could be a regular one, but either way, they always have a regular Direct in the first part of the year, usually February or March. Now, recently, when it comes to normal years, they've had them in February, the last number of years. Although with the Nintendo Switch 2 coming up, they did kind of adjust that a little bit, because they had the big Nintendo Direct in April, then they had a Nintendo Direct for Switch 1 games right before that, so it was a little bit weird. They had the reveal in January. It was just such a awkward kind of piecing that together, just because there was so much stuff to talk about and so many different games and so many different features and just so much stuff to go over with the Nintendo Switch 2 launching. Plus, if you look at it, the winding down of the Nintendo Switch 1, where games are kind of getting less and less, and Nintendo wants you to obviously buy the Nintendo Switch 2. But before that time period, it was seemingly put to where it was like, okay, February was the month for the Nintendo Directs, because the thing about it is Nintendo has their investors meeting in February, but they also have to kind of look at the outlook for the year, like the rest of the games for like spring. So you want to get those games announced, or you want to get those games dated. A lot of times they'll be revealed at the end of the previous year. You want to get those games dated for the rest of the year. That's why I'm more leaning towards a regular Nintendo Direct, because Nintendo still has a number of games like Yoshi and the Mysterious Book that still does not have a date. Splatoon Raiders, that does not have a date. The Dusk Bloods, that does not have a date. So there's a number of games that they've already revealed that have already been out there that we know about that don't have release dates. How about a lot of the third-party games that were delayed from last year, like Borderlands 4, that needs a release date, and Elden Ring, that also needs a release date. So Nintendo has a combination of first-party and third-party games that need release dates. We also need to see what's happening for the big game for the end of the year. Nintendo hasn't detailed any of that. They've got a number of games revealed like Pocopia and different types of titles that are going to be coming out, but we still need to know what's that big game for the end of the year. People are talking about 3D Mario, which we are going to get to in just a bit. But people are talking about 3D Mario. People are talking about the new Gen 10 Pokemon. I think both of those are absolutely on the cards here for 2026. If you just look at the layout and kind of how things are progressing, what Nintendo had last year, it definitely seems like we could get 3D Mario and we could get new Gen 10 Pokemon. So it does seem like this is happening. And we also got a little bit more of a beat on that because there was the game from the developers that make Orbitals. That is a really cool looking Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive where it's like a co-op, almost like a Japanese split fiction with an 80s retro anime aesthetic vibe to it. But it reminds me of that. Those co-op games like Split Fiction or It Takes Two, that's made by Hazelight, where they kind of put it really towards cooperative play, fun little unique things that you can do in the game. So Orbitals, this game was originally announced at the Game Awards last year, and it does seem like the developers of the game posted on Bilibili that this game will appear at the first Nintendo Direct of 2026. Now, they have since deleted that post, but that does lead credence to that there will be a Nintendo Direct very soon, since they kind of posted it and said, oops, wait a minute, hold up, we gotta take this back. Now, I think from their end, they were probably thinking that they're so excited that their game gets to be in a Nintendo Direct that they forgot that you can't just say that. From what I understand, this development team maybe is a bit new, or I haven't really heard about them too much. When it comes down to it, seems like they're more of a indie to smaller development team. They're not a major development team, but they're a lot of industry veterans or people that have worked in the industry before making this game. And I think that they accidentally just put out some stuff that they shouldn't have. Now, in the original post, the game does say, hey, look, this is hand-drawn cutscenes, local and online multiplayer, 0 AI usage, and Chinese voice language. So they're excited about this game. They want it to do well. They want to turn it into a franchise and an IP. They didn't think necessarily everything through. So it does seem like, yes, there will be a Nintendo Direct. Orbitals should show up there, and why wouldn't it? Because this game looks incredible, and I'm just looking forward to more of what we could potentially see at this Nintendo Direct. And I'll have a separate video once we get the full reveal of it and Nintendo announces it. Nintendo could announce this Direct next week. They usually announce Directs at least a day before, so sometimes you'll get almost no warning. They'll be like, hey, look, we're gonna have a Nintendo Direct tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. like, be there for it. Or, hey, we're gonna have a Nintendo Direct in 2 days. Sometimes they might give you 2 days, but a lot of times it is the day before. So just keep that in mind with work, or if you're dealing with this whole cold storm that's going across here in the US. But if you're overseas or anything, just keep that in mind. They usually just give us a day notice. So it's usually in the morning too. So it might be like we're at 6 a.m. my time, so 9 a.m. Eastern. So usually it's really early in the morning. So look out for that as well. But yeah, I think that with this Nintendo Direct, you still have a number of third-party developers that need to reveal what they're working on for the rest of the year. And one of the interesting things that Nate said in his podcast, he stated that a lot of third-party developers want to kind of see the Nintendo Switch almost kind of take up the mantle from the departure of what we're seeing from the Xbox when it comes to hardware because of these sales numbers. They want to see the Nintendo Switch 2 establish itself as a brand that they can go to make money alongside PlayStation with that when it comes to game sales overall because of the rapidly expanding install base of it. So not only does Nintendo have to make sure that they keep the momentum and keep things coming up here, I think that there are a lot of third-party developers that are now seeing Nintendo Switch 2 far more viable to make their games and to make money on the platform than what we've ever seen in Nintendo's history, at least dating all the way back to probably the Super Nintendo. Because if you're looking at it, Nintendo quite hasn't had the third-party support that you would love to see from other developers. Now, they've had some good stuff over the years. I think that GameCube was good for the most part, and if you look at the Nintendo Switch 1, that was good, but it took some time to get some of the games. But with the Nintendo Switch 2, you're looking at it to where you get stuff like Pragmata, Automata or Resident Evil Requiem. You're getting stuff day and date as the other platforms. So one of the emphasis that would be good for this year is to establish not only getting some great third-party games, but also getting day and date stuff as well. But once again, that's going to be subject to if the developer can make it run on the system, what's going on with the resources. So there's so many other things that factor into it, because the Nintendo Switch 2 is a different type of system compared to the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and PC platform that a lot of these games are developed for first in mind. So this should be an interesting and pivotal type of Nintendo Direct for Nintendo if they do a regular Direct. Now, even if this is a partner showcase first and foremost, they'll have another actual big Nintendo Direct before the end of March, in my opinion, because Nintendo usually never goes past March without having that big Nintendo Direct. It is very rare because, once again, they have to date their games that they already announced from the previous year, and they also have to lay out what's going to be coming out for the summer and for the fall to get people excited and to keep the momentum. And like I've stated before with the Nintendo Switch 2, this is probably the most important, or one of the more important time periods in the Nintendo Switch 2's life, because you have the holiday that just happened, and that's great. Everyone was buying systems and everything, but now it's going to slow down considerably from the holiday. Now at this point, okay, the people that haven't really decided yet or haven't really got one, what are you going to do to entice them to make sure that they pick up the Nintendo Switch 2 this year? So that's where the big third-party support comes in. That's where Nintendo's big first-party games come in. So making an impression right now at this point, I think is pivotal to set the tone for the rest of the year. And if there's a big new 3D Mario game that is revealed, and if you have Zelda, like let's say a remaster or remake, you have a couple of other titles as well, new gen Pokemon, maybe you have some other things. There's a variety of stuff that you can do to entice people to pick up the platform post holiday, and people who maybe want to use it as a primary platform or trade in their Nintendo Switch 1, or maybe use it as a secondary or portable only type of platform. There's so many different ways on how the Nintendo Directs really help out with marketing and what they do to sell the system. I personally feel that one of the biggest reasons why the Nintendo Switch 1 did so well was not only because they had great games, but because they actually marketed the heck out of the system with Nintendo Directs. I think Nintendo Directs help sell a lot of systems out there, and I think that with the Nintendo Switch 2, that can also help sell a lot of systems out there too. Now, Nate also had some predictions, which, once again, we'll do my predictions and what potentially could happen once we get the reveal of the Nintendo Direct. And I've already done a big 25 plus prediction show of what we could see in 2026. But another game that I wanted to just talk about briefly that Nate discussed was Expedition 33. And yes, I know this game is going on a year old at this point, and it's something to where a lot of people probably have played it on PlayStation or Xbox or PC if you're interested. But I do think that a native portable version of Expedition 33 built specifically for the Nintendo Switch 2 could be a great thing that's just out there. It could be really cool, because there was many times when I was playing this game that I wished that I could play it portable, and I tried to hook up my PS Portal and it wasn't necessarily working as well, and I don't want to do Steam Deck or portable PC type of stuff. So having a native coated to the metal version of a Expedition 33, I think that would be really good, and that would help the game sell even more. And I think that they could get a boost in Japan too, because this game actually has a number of the core audience in Japan talking about it, but it's not on Nintendo Switch 1 and it's not on Nintendo Switch 2, not at this point. So if they get Expedition 33 on the Switch 2, where the Switch 2 is the most popular system overall. It doesn't have the biggest install base right now because it's still going, but right now everyone's buying Nintendo Switch 2 in Japan. It's the best selling system when it comes to since June 2025 by a country mile. So if they can get that on there, I think that also opens up more opportunities for their game to sell in Japan. And of course, it opens up a lot of opportunities for the game to sell over the course of time period with the Nintendo Switch 2. So Expedition 33 could be a very interesting game if it's revealed here. Now, it could be at a different Direct. Remember, Nintendo still has Directs that they do, usually 3, one at the beginning of the year, one in the middle of the year around June or July, then one at the end of the year around September or so. So it could be announced at any one of those. I just don't know if it's going to be announced here. I just thought that it was interesting that Nate discussed that with Expedition 33. He also talked about another game that I think is really cool, and I've discussed it before, and I think it's happening. It's pretty much already been leaked or whatever, but Metaphor ReFantazio. That's another really good Japanese RPG, in my opinion at least, that was the game of the year. I thought that was the game of the year for 2024. It offered a fantastic gameplay experience, a hybrid combat system between action and turn-based, a very fun story that's not perfect, but still very intriguing and interesting. Incredible music when it comes to the music. Oh my gosh, I still listen to Metaphor ReFantazio music. Very unique and fun music, great characters, cool backstories, fun, interesting graphics. Not the best graphics, but interesting graphics nonetheless with the art style. I think that Metaphor ReFantazio is a phenomenal game. And if they're able to adapt that well on the Nintendo Switch 2, with that system, I think that would create a better gameplay experience for a lot of people, being able to play that portable. And I think that would create a great gameplay experience once again for a system that has hybrid play with portable and home console. One of the things, once again, like Expedition, tried to use my PS Portal, wasn't working. I wasn't really a fan of the PC version or Steam or something like that. So having a native portable version for Metaphor ReFantazio probably will get me to go back and play it again if I can kind of just mess around with it during NFL season. Hopefully, Metaphor ReFantazio also happens this year, which Nate is predicting. There's also a bunch of other predictions. I highly recommend checking out his podcast. I will have some more predictions for the upcoming Nintendo Direct once we find out exactly what is going on. I'll have a video for you guys. So what do you think about everything here when it comes to the potential for this Nintendo Direct? What do you think could happen? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG content and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.